once we connect with those emotions and let them go, it's like, wow, I'm not that anymore. Like, I was
Right.
doing that, but like, that's what I don't want to do. So
Right.
this work gives you that self-awareness, and it gives you the consciousness to look at what you're doing and say, okay, now I know that I've been doing this. All right. Now I can continue going down that road, or I can start making different choices that will not be self-sabotage
Right.
because of past behavior. I mean, you might hit some road bumps, and you
Sure.
might get some things that say like, "Are you sure you want to go down this path?" But
Sure. Sure.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, folks. It's Audley Stevenson back for another edition of the most audacious podcast the internet has to offer. This is the Audacious Living Podcast, and I appreciate you for being here as we continue our ongoing goal of helping our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. As always, I encourage you to connect with us through our social media channels. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the handle The Audacious Pod. And then if you head over to YouTube, or if you happen to be watching this episode through our YouTube channel, then you can subscribe simply by tapping that bell down below, ding, 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 and you are instantly connected to all great things audacious related. Now, whether we realize it or not, we've all been guilty at one time or another of some form of self-sabotaging behavior. This could take the form of negativity, procrastination, self-criticism, or maybe even you suffer from the imposter syndrome. Now, self-sabotage is when your conscience gets in the way of your intent, disrupting you to the point where you defeat your own purpose. It's really subconscious. That subconscious behavior can hold us back in life and even turn into a repetitive cycle that happens over and over and over again. And that can lead to ultimately a form of discouragement or despair. Like I said, we've all gone there at some point or another, and so none of us are immune to it. I've got Bo Bissett joining me on this edition of the Audacious Living Podcast, and Bo's going to talk about the self-sabotaging behaviors that appeared in his own life, and he do this by sharing his personal story and the journey that he went through to overcome some really, really challenging situations. As a mindset coach, he helps others, and he's using his own experiences to impact other individuals in profound ways. And those instances that Bo will touch on, we'll really talk about his journey, where how he got to where he is right now. So it's a really, really powerful conversation. Lots of great insights. So now that the stage has been set, it's my turn to turn the conversation over to Bo as we explore how we can overcome self-sabotaging behaviors. Enjoy. Greetings, Bo. Thank you for joining me here on the Audacious Living Podcast. I really appreciate you taking some time and hanging out and chatting all good things audaciousness, man.
Yeah, man, I agree. I appreciate you having me on. Like I said earlier, I appreciate you sharing your platform, and it's just nice to be here. I love your energy, and so
Thank you.
I'm digging the next hour.
There we go. Well, look, I really do appreciate you again, and I mean that. I certainly find value in your messaging around the positive energy and the subconscious, and helping people find their potential and while living their true audacious selves is really essentially kind of where I attack this thing from. And maybe as a starting point, just for those listeners who have no idea who Bo Bissett is or what he's all about, maybe we can get fill our listeners in a bit to get an idea of what you do.
Okay. Well, I'm the founder of Amo, which is a blended healing philosophy.
Uh-huh.
Amo in Spanish means I love, ni in Chinese means you. So together directly translates into I love you, which is the goal of the what I do is to have the person look in the mirror and actually say those words. Not only say them, but mean them.
Gotcha.
And um, so we use it's a four different methodologies in the system. I use muscle testing to get in touch with the subconscious and find the emotions that we've programmed. Then we use meridian release points they're basically like that. The meridian chart is like a map, and
Okay.
basically we use the muscle test and we find the emotions and find out where they are located on that map, and then we're able to peg them onto the body. And with there are certain release points that correspond to those meridians. And so
Hmm.
once we find the emotion and where it's located, we use a pranayamic breath that I developed called the Amo breath. It's a
Okay.
three-part breath, AMO, Ama, and it's part visualization and part the humming from the breath also stimulates the vagus nerve, which is like a emotional reset. And then we use neuro-linguistic programming at the very end, like a cherry on top, to help grease the wheels of intention and send the person firmly down their path of their hopes and dreams.
So it's very detailed as each of those four steps as you identified them. How did you land on that as a method of helping people find that path of their dreams?
Well, I started doing muscle testing a few years ago, and then yeah, everything else. I had an individual take me through another program that was based on muscle testing, and that worked tremendously well.
Okay.
It really that was the beginning part of the true beginning of my healing process. Because I started this journey about 7 or 8 years ago, and the when I first started, I was rough. I was looking for everything. I was scrambling to get my hands on anything that I could get my hands on to better myself, better my life, and better my situation. I had ruined myself, on almost every single level you could imagine. And so, yeah, I was just looking and looking and looking, and I kept coming up empty. I'd make some progress, and then it's like two steps forward and then like three steps back.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Two steps. And I just felt like I wasn't getting anywhere, and like nothing in my life was changing. And I met this wonderful woman, and we started going down this journey together. And but like all my self-sabotaging programs kept popping up, and we would have these big arguments, and we had several near relationship ending arguments. And
Right.
finally, the last one, we both decided, like, this is it. We got to get it. We got to get it together this time. And she knew somebody who did some of the work that I do now. And so I met with him, and boom, it just immediately everything clicked, everything fell
Right.
into place. And it was like, the beautiful part about this work is that it is, I call it the self-awareness solution,
Hmm.
because basically we're all running around based on programs that we installed as children. And
Yeah, I know what you mean.
these programs were installed during traumatic or emotional reactive moments, right?
Right. Right.
And so the traumatic incidences could come from something big like a car accident, or it could come from your mom just looking at you wrong, right?
Right.
So I mean,
Right.
there are many different levels of trauma. So we're running around all these programs that are dictating how we feel about love, money, sex, the other sex, food, the butterflies, peanut butter jelly sandwiches, you name it, right?
Right.
So this self-awareness, we're running around subconsciously. Most of us are in like a zombie state
Gotcha.
that's
Yep.
completely ruled by the
Right.
subconscious,
Right.
right?
And totally unaware of this.
Exactly.
Just
Yeah,
operating.
exactly. We have
Yep.
no idea, right?
Yep.
So let me sidestep for a minute. I saw this interesting post on like intentional living the other day, and it's funny because it seems to be like this movement that's taking place, but and it's mostly regarding like materialism. But intentional living, I thought, I was like, man, most people don't have an idea, because they are so, to live intentionally means you have to be conscious.
Right.
You need to use conscious
Right.
awareness to get where
Right.
you're going, right?
Right.
But most, I'm not going to say a percentage, but most of the people are not walking around conscious. Most people are just walking around based on their programs, with their head buried in their phone and just going from point A to point B to point C
Right.
to point D
Right.
with no awareness whatsoever. And what this work does is it finds those programs, which are emotions. It finds those programs and it just pops the bubble. And
Gotcha.
once that happens, once that bubble pops, then you have these aha moments. And it's like, oh my God, I've been doing this, or I've been saying
Yes.
this, or I've
Yes.
been feeling this, or
Yes.
I've been putting off this energy. It's like
Yes.
there's so many different little micro actions or
Yes.
reactions that we put out there
You don't even
based
know.
on, and we don't even know we're doing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And most of the time it takes somebody like a family member, a friend, a coworker, a loved one to point it out. And then even when that happens, like how many times is, your wife or someone else told you, oh, stop doing this. I'm not doing that. Most people don't know, even if someone tells us, we don't believe it.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
different when you find it, when you find that emotion, you find
Absolutely.
that program that you've been running and you pop that bubble. It's like, whoa, oh my
That's
God,
right.
I have been doing that.
the
Oh, that's right.
world
Yeah.
changes at that point, Bo. It's something else, and you're almost delusional because you're like, I've been this lost or this deep into this thought or belief for all this time, and I've been totally wrong. I heard someone say the other day, and I'm really starting to believe it more and more, is that each one of us in our lives has something that we believe wholeheartedly in that we're totally wrong about. Like, it exists for all of us, and so that illustration that you provided, I think, it fits into that exactly.
Yeah, you're so right, man. It's so right. It's just, and there's so many levels. There's so many. I mean, there are hundreds and thousands of these different programs that we're running,
Right, right.
and we don't even, and we're not even aware. I got another funny story. My wife and I, like a couple of weekends ago, we were out kayaking, and like our place is like right on, we like live on a mountain. There's a cliff, and then boom, there's the Pacific Ocean. And there's a little water sports club like a few minutes down from our place, and we go grab kayaks and we just basically ride up and down or paddle up and down the coast. It's
Right.
beautiful. But we were paddling and there was one of the cliffs in the distance. I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, like something like happened. There was some big erosion, or there's like a hole in that cliff. Have you ever seen that before? And she's like, oh my God, no. And that's huge. It looks like you'd drive like a car through it. And so the closer we get, I'm staring at it the whole time, like, man, I can't believe I've never seen that before. And like this is huge hole in the cliff. Well, we get almost like right up on it, and we both at the same time are like, oh my God, this is not a hole. It was a tree. It was a tree that was sticking out from the cliff, and the sun was hitting it just right, so it illuminated it, and it made it look like it was coming from the other side of a cliff. So it was like looked like there was a hole in the cliff, but there was no hole.
Right, right.
So something that we thought was like, and we totally believed
Yes,
with
yes.
with all our thing wasn't even real.
Yeah. I like to refer those as the light bulb moment, right? Where the light goes on and all of a sudden everything that you thought was true or believed to be a certain way is something entirely different.
Exactly.
And it's really sobering to go through those experiences, Bo, because it helps put things in perspective, certainly, and helps you sort of frame things appropriately in our minds, just about the world, life, who we are, all of these things. So I think those light bulb moments are important. I want to go back to you sort of touched on self-love a bit and the self-sabotaging behaviors. Two things that they work very hand in hand, so to speak, because you certainly you have to have self-love enough not to sabotage yourself with those self-sabotaging behaviors. I want to sort of talk about the connection between those two and more so just the significance in showing love to ourselves.
Okay. Yeah, they are connected, but then there's they're both are influenced individually by programs that we've installed. So
Right.
you can have self-love, but then still self-sabotage because of things that because of the programs that you're running, the emotions
Fair
that
enough.
you're running.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it's self-love is so important. In fact, that's one of the first books that I picked up when I started that's fun. When I started down this journey.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the name of the book. Somebody asked me it's the same question the other day, and I can't remember. It's something like Love Yourself First. I think that might be it.
Okay.
But it's based it's this guy from Silicon Valley. He was like running a successful business, like one of these tech entrepreneurs, and but was just so depressed. He couldn't get out of bed and like didn't know what was wrong. He went to the doctor, couldn't figure it out. Finally, he just started looking in the mirror and started telling himself that he loved himself. He was like, I love you, I love you, I love you. And then it took a while, but he said, that was what turned him around. I tried that. It was one of those things that I tried and like didn't work, right? I was always staring at myself in the mirror. I was like, you liar, you don't love yourself. You're a piece of crap,
Oh man.
Yeah. So, self-love, it's the foundation of what I'm doing now, because that's the stage that I want to get people at. So with my program, like if you don't say that, like if you cannot, by the end of me working with you, if you cannot say that, like you don't pay anything. Like
Right.
you walk away, and it's
Right.
hopefully, I give the people many more assets for them to take away, for them to do the work on their own. But like, if it's not working, then yeah, you pay nothing. So, but self-sabotage, I mean, I spent my entire life self-sabotaging from a very, very young age. I'm not sure. I never found out why. And that's another thing too. Like when we're doing this work and we find the emotions, like
Yep.
the why they're there is not important.
Right. Right.
It's just that we found that emotion. It happened at this age, and this was the circumstance. Like why you did it, who cares? Like we find it and we let it go.
How important is the how part? Like how it got there? Does that matter much?
Not it plays. We find it with the how, but then we also find it with going inside, like going into the body. Okay. Because our body is like kind of like you remember your high school hallway, just like littered with lockers,
sure,
and everybody's socializing outside of the lockers, right?
Yep.
Well, our body is like that. But instead of books and notes and stuff like that, our body holds these emotions, right? And the body can hold them in the heart. It can hold them in the hip. It can hold them in the pinky finger. It can hold them in the neck, wherever, right? So when we find the emotions, the first thing that I do is we find the age that occurred. We find the emotion, then we find the age that occurred. And then I use some other muscle testing techniques to find out, to try to paint the picture a little bit better, like who did it come from? If we can find out like where the situation and bring it to light, that helps. But if there's no actual conscious recognition of the moment, then we go straight to the body and we find out like where are you holding that in your body. And for a lot of people, it takes some time for us to be able to. For some people don't immediately like boom, oh, it's in my pelvis, or it's in my left foot, or it's in my heart, or something like that, right. Because most of us are so disconnected with our own body that there's just
interesting point.
There's just connections gone, right? So but we use those two things to find it, and using those two tools we can always figure out where it is and connect with it and move it. So either one or both work.
Gotcha.
So,
Bo, people will be listening to this conversation, the idea of, emotions being stored in different parts of our body. And I would assume that would lead to, maybe if you experience a pain, let's say hypothetically, that could be a cause of it, right? So, there are people that will be listening to this and not really maybe grasping or doubting or disbelieving, right? That how is this
Yeah,
even possible, right? How can
I
emotions
understand.
cause body pain?
Well, the thing is, like, no, I totally agree with you. And I was in, if somebody's in that seat right now, like I was there with you,
Right,
10 years ago. I was
right.
like, yeah. But like the thing is, everything is energy.
Gotcha.
Every single thing is energy. The screen that you're looking at me with right now is energy. The voice that's coming out of you and I, our mouth is energy.
Right,
The thought that I'm having as I'm putting together these words that are materializing as my voice are energy. Every single thing is energy. Emotions are energy. And my a big turning point. One of the first books I read about, you know, that pushed me further down this direction was called The Molecules of Emotion. And it
okay.
was written by Dr. Candace Pert. And in it, she talks about how emotions affect us on a molecular level. And like when I read that, I was like, all right, that's my key. Like
Right,
emotions. I know that's what keeps tripping me up.
right.
But it was like years later. It was another 5 or 6 years before I stumbled onto this work. And so, but that was the seed that got planted. So, when you feel anger, we embody that anger. When you feel sadness, we embody that
Yes,
sadness.
right.
To embody means to hold on and basically like store it in your body.
Yes,
So that's where that word comes from. So we hold on to it, and it sits there, and anger vibrates at a different frequency than love. Anger difference vibrates as a different frequency than sadness or shame or guilt or
right,
self-confidence or any of
right,
these
right,
emotions, right? And when we store them, they sit there and they are vibrating in their frequency, right? And then love vibrates at a healthy frequency. Anger, guilt, shame vibrate at unhealthy frequencies.
right.
And it is my belief, I don't have any scientific proof, but it's my belief that these emotions and the vibrations that they give off actually cause injury and illness.
Mm,
So as a child, I was a very angry child, and I I didn't show it. I had like explosive moments,
okay.
mostly like when I was playing sports and stuff like that, and
Right.
I'd like botch a play or something like that, or just lose and start cussing and just acting like a spoiled little brat, actually, because
Right.
I was just angry and
Right.
just
Right.
because I took pride in how much that I practiced and how much that I put into my craft. And then when I messed up, I was like, oh, you idiot. No, 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 no.
Right. Right.
And that started manifesting at a young age is like, I think I broke my ankles like 2 or 3 times before the age of like 15. And then at
Mm.
15, I blew out my knee, my ACL, MCL,
Oh wow.
cartilage, like completely.
Whew.
The doctor was like, you're done, man.
Right. Wow. It's serious.
And yeah, so then I mean that was what well that's not what that was I lost my identity as a soccer player then, and then fell into drinking and drugs, and like then that's when my life just went totally cuckoo.
And that started at such a young age then.
Yeah, very young age. And then
Wow.
like at 19, I got in a drunk driving accident. I was the sole participant in that. I ran off the road, well, not clipped, I broke a telephone pole in half because I rolled through it. The
Wow.
police officer showed up and he called the hospital, like, take your time, this guy's done.
Wow.
My dead grandfather showed up to my consciousness, I guess, and told me
Okay.
like to go back. He was like, it's not your time yet. And honestly, I regretted that decision for another 20 years after that.
Wow.
And 2 years later, I got in another accident where I was drunk and I was skateboarding home after work. I stopped at a party, drank some beers, and then went home. I was going to shower and come back, and then got hit by a car, almost lost my right leg. And then anyway, man, there's just like the string of self-sabotage and addictive, destructive behavior that I was going through. It just maddening. I mean, if you were sitting on the sidelines, if I was sitting on the sidelines watching somebody go through that today, I was like, dude, what is wrong with
Right.
that person?
Right.
Like,
Right. Right.
this
Right.
guy is crazy. And then,
Wow.
yeah, and I was just, that was the light bulb moment. Like, oh, it just kind of shakes me up just thinking about it now. Like when I started going through this work, and one of the first emotions that we cleared was shame.
Mm.
And when we cleared that emotion, like, boom, I
Right.
realized, I was like, oh my God, I've been doing this to myself. Like,
Right.
I've been,
Right.
and I cried. I cried straight for probably about 8 hours. And
Wow.
then as I was going through this process, like 3 months, man, I was I was a baby, just a
Right.
baby.
Right.
And the thing is, like, we talked about earlier about the whole physical aspect of, emotions being stored in the body.
Yep.
I am about, do you guys use pounds or kgs in Canada?
Kilograms, kgs.
Okay, kgs. All right. So I'm about at that point I was about 80 kgs, right?
Okay.
And I'm back to where I was now. I'm back to that point now, but I'm about 80 kgs and I'm fit. Like I'm not somebody that should lose much more weight than I'm carrying. I went from 80 kgs to 68
Oh wow, that's
kgs
a lot.
as I was going through this
Yep.
process,
And this is like
right?
3 months, you said.
Yeah, and I look like a skeleton, man.
Wow. Wow.
And it wasn't because I was not eating. It was just the is I believe that it was that like an emotional
Yeah.
purge.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Like
Which
those
is
emotions had been holding on to like a
right.
physical part of me. And as I was letting it go, like that stuff like was
Right.
just
Right.
out.
Right. Right. Which is an important sort of exercise to go through because it's a form of a release, but
Hmm.
but at the same time it's draining, right? Like it really drains you, and at the end of it, I'm guessing it's not leaving with a whole lot, and you talked earlier about the whole identity thing, right? Like you have to
Hmm.
figure, almost like you've got to figure out sort of who you are and where you're at again. Like you've pressed the reset button, haven't you, Bo?
Yeah, you're exactly right. That is it's a great way to put it. And you do, the thing is you don't really once that happens, you don't really know, you're not really sure where you are, but
Mm,
you are very sure of what you're not,
gotcha.
right? Because once we connect with those emotions and let them go, it's like, wow, I'm not that anymore. Like, I was
Right.
doing that, but like that's what I don't want to do. So
Right.
this work gives you that self-awareness, and it gives you the consciousness to look at what you're doing and say, okay, now I know that I've been doing this. All right. Now I can continue going down that road, or I can start making different choices that will not be self-sabotage
Right.
because of past behavior. I mean, you might hit some road bumps, and you
Sure.
might get some things that say like, "Are you sure you want to go down this path?" But
Sure. Sure.
it gets a
But those are the
lot.
natural things, Bo, right? Like we're all gonna see those
Exactly.
bumps and whatever.
Yeah, of
Like no
course.
no no one's ever said our pathway was smooth sailing all the way
No.
through, right? Right?
No, 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 no. That doesn't happen like
Got you.
that.
So here's what I find interesting. So because the and so first, I congratulations for the work that you did to get you to this point, because
I
it wasn't
appreciate
an
it.
easy journey. And I mean,
No.
particularly when you talk about the things that you've carried from your childhood all the way through. So absolutely, I need
Mhm.
to acknowledge that because it's really important that you've done that work, and congratulations. Now the part though that's interesting, there's the work you did to sort of get better. That's one thing, and that's a
Mhm.
big job of itself. But then
Mhm.
the other part to figure out where to go next, like
Mhm.
living life of my dreams. What's my potential? Where am I? Like that's a whole other piece, right? Like talk about
Mhm.
that process because those are two different things we're talking about here.
Yeah, exactly. So once you get there, like once I did all the clearing work, when I went through the first round, I realized that yeah, I felt limitless. I felt like, all right, now the
Right,
brakes are off, and now I can do what I want, and I can finally start setting my intentions and moving toward those, knowing that all this other stuff is gone.
right.
So it was a huge moment of relief, but then also it was a lot more work. Because when I first went through this work,
Yep.
I realized that for me, like when I stopped drinking, I stopped drinking for two reasons. First of all, like my body was starting to break down on me. And also I was living with my aunt and uncle at the time. They were helping me get it back on my feet from another crash and burn that I'd had. Well, while I was staying with them, my aunt got breast cancer. So that was just like, that was in my face, and I was like, dude, like, you got people that, might, family members that, you love and care for that might die. And
Right.
like, and you're just like, you have no regard for yourself, or it's like, dude, you have nothing, like, get it together. So that was a huge moment for me, and made me change my way of thinking.
Right.
But I always thought, like, and I just gave it up. Like, I quit drinking cold turkey.
Right.
And that was in itself was difficult, because to that point I was drinking a case of beer a day, and then at night I was drinking whiskey to help me go to sleep.
Right. Right.
So the thing is, like, when I went through this process, I realized, like, I let go of and I'd stopped drinking for long enough that I realized, like, the physical aspects of the addiction were gone, right?
Right.
So if I had removed the emotional aspects, then I should be able to have a beer, which is something. It's just something I wanted to be able to do, because I had always hated, always, I was so envious that my friends could go out and, like, have a beer, or, 3 or 4, right? And, get a little giddy, and then, go home and, sleep it off and wake up the next day and,
Right. Sure.
feel
Sure.
normal, right?
Yep. Yep.
But I wasn't that dude. I was the dude that went out, and I had to have 6 beers before I went out and feel comfortable to hanging out with everybody. And then when I got out, I was the guy that drank 12 while we were out, and then was taking tequila, Jägermeister shots, and everything
Sure.
else you can think of, right? So I was always, like, so envious, and I was really determined that liquid, that a liquid would beat me. And so, yeah, I was like, all right, I'm gonna try it. And I tried. I one weekend I had a couple glasses of wine. I was like, oh, I think I can do it. Then the next week I had a couple glasses of wine, and I was like, I could feel that pull.
Sure.
Usually the first time I had a drink, like, stuff got in my system, I was like, oh, it's on now. It's ready. I'm ready. Let's go.
Right. Right.
And
right.
then, but then, so I realized I was like that I'm waking that monster up. So I got more work to do. And so I spent months longer finding stuff, looking for more stuff, developing, and that helped me develop what I'm doing now. But now I'm at the point now, like, if there's a long week, if there's a long day in the garden, or, if I've just been out in the sun and been sweating, and, like, I just want to relax and, have a beer on my porch as I, look out at the beautiful scenery that we've got surrounding us, then I can go and grab a beer, drink it, enjoy, like, every swallow, just really savor it.
Yep.
And then crush the can and be done.
Nice. It's a great place to be. It's a great place to be.
It's amazing. Amazing.
Because you look at that thing that was such had a hold on your life. And now it doesn't have that hold, and it's now become insignificant. You've got the control. You've got the power. And I think that's when we talk about addictions, I think it's really, it is about sort of power and control, right? So you can limit yourself. You can have just that one beer, have that one drink, and it doesn't overpower you. You've got the control. And I think that's a real big part of the work you do, is reminding people they absolutely can control the situation.
It's like I talked about earlier, it's choice, right? So now I have the choice. Like, I own that. I own that beer. I own that drink. I own whatever. Like, and let's see, there might be, last time I had a beer was maybe 6 months ago. And, like, it's not my thing, man. Like, I've spent so much time, like, getting healthy but every once in a while I'm like, yeah, I want one. And, like, I have that choice. I own that beer. Like, if I want to drink it, I can drink it, or I can go buy it and then get home and be like, you know what? I don't want it. I'm good. And then I got beer that stays in the refrigerator. Like, there is one beer, like a single can of beer that's in the refrigerator. It's been there for months. I So yeah, and that is the beautiful part of, like, you own it, like you have that choice,
I
and
love it.
the triggers are gone, and it's just, yeah, for you, it's your choice.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Let's talk about self-talk
Okay.
and the conversations that we have with ourselves. And what if you sort of talk about how important those conversations, especially when we have positive conversations, because I think oftentimes in our own heads, we beat ourselves up more than anyone else on the planet, it seems like. But
Man,
that self-talk is significant, isn't it?
it is huge. It is so huge. Imagine, like, I'm glad you brought this up, because this is one of my biggest used to be my biggest hangups. Like, I was, like you said, like, I guess we all are, but I mean, I was just brutal. I would tell myself what a loser I was. And, like, in the stock market, or when you buy like a mutual fund, they give you, I don't know if they do now, they used to when I was younger, they give you this prospectus. And it basically says, like, past performance is no guarantee of future results, right? But I would always look at, I would go back and I would use my past, and I'd be like, you failed at this, you like botched this, you broke up with this wonderful woman, like how do you think, like, why would you even believe that this next venture that you're going to take on is be successful? Why do you think that girl would be interested in you? Why are you even wasting your time? You're an idiot, you're a loser. Like, it was so brutal. And you think about it, like, we want good things to happen, but how are you going to have good things happen if that's the way that you're talking to yourself?
Right.
But the thing is, with that self-talk, like, it's a lot of it is emotional. So, like, if you have shameful emotions or angry emotions that are running your life, then those are the kind of thoughts that you're going to be having, and that's going to be driving that voice that's inside of your head. And so for me, like, that was one of the big revelations when I started doing this work, is like, voices, because I kind of felt like, man, am I crazy? Like, I've always got, like, I got these voices in my head, and, like, they just won't stop. And then they're telling me, what a bad person I am. It just won't. Is that me, or is that another, like, am I psychotic or what?
Right.
But, well, yeah, once the emotions start going, then that negative self-talk just goes out the window with it. Now, there are instances where even me, like, I still overthink things, but
Sure.
there's a great trick to abolish that overthinking, because
Oh, okay.
I'll teach you right now. It's a 3-word trick, and it's one of the most amazing things I've learned. I can't remember who I heard it from, but basically, we create a story, and it can be about your drive to work. It can be about your work. It can be about the boss. It can be about your wife. It can be like whatever. But it starts small, and then you start building, your facts, which are not facts. They're just like the bits of the story that you start piling on. The next thing, you go from maybe a 1-sentence story to, you got this whole, like, movie playing in your head about how bad blah 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 is, right? And the way to stop that is to, in the moment, just ask yourself this one question: is it true? Right? And
That's a powerful question.
I know, right? And so when you ask yourself you can honestly look at the movie that you're playing in your head and, like, dude, no, that is BS. I just made up all of that junk. That is, like, what? Okay, I'm going about my day now. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. No, it's very simple but extremely powerful, because because one of the things that question does, it forces us to even question ourselves, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with us doing that. I think that's a very healthy and a good thing, that we should be checking ourselves. It's almost more checking yourself, right? Like, is this really true? And oftentimes you'll find that I oftentimes I'll almost ignore that first thought that comes in my mind, because it's so outrageous sometimes, right? And it's so wild, and it's so I almost consciously ignore it, because I know that others will be following, right? And not to say those others will be any better, but I know the first one definitely isn't the right one.
That's funny. I like that.
Ignore the first thought. But no,
Yeah,
I do agree with you. The whole idea of questioning yourselves, because we've got to, and I think when we find the answer, they will be interesting sometimes.
yeah, exactly. I totally agree with you.
I think a natural sort of progression on the topic of self-talk is another piece I think makes sense. It's a really great way of even building our confidence, because that's
Hmm.
another aspect of this. So, if we want to do all these great audacious things, it's not happening if we don't believe we're going to do it. It's not happening if we
Exactly.
don't have the confidence to do it. And so I wonder if you could sort of
Hmm.
touch on how, confidence comes into play in all this.
Yeah, of course. So, yeah, like okay, so the is it true trick that'll build confidence in the fact that, like, it'll, abolish the story that you just thought, and, like you said, it's, it'll what just happened with you and I, it'll force us to laugh at the situation too, and laughter is extremely powerful, right? So, but yeah, the confidence comes as as if you're not telling yourself what a loser you are, or or how bad you're not going to botch something up, then, like, confidence just kind of naturally creeps in. It's just
Yeah.
a byproduct of, like, all that negativity just leaving. So,
Right.
and once you believe, like, the powerful stuff about what we do is, like, see, I'm not a healer,
Okay.
right? I'm a guide. I've been through this process. I've healed myself. I guess I am a healer, but I am my own healer, right? So, and the people that I work with, they heal themselves. So the stuff that I use helps them find it, but then they connect with it and they use the breathing to move
Sure.
it, and then they visualize their own future and they put all the pieces together. So it's very empowering. And once they realize that, like, that's why, like, also the part of the course that I do is, like, I give them, like, a video course that's part of what I do, that shows them how to do this work on their own, right? So they can go take it and go as deep as they want to clear, the rest of the stuff that
Right.
they've got bothering. What I do is, like, just like a big nuclear bomb, and takes out, like, a huge chunk of it. But there's still more work that needs to be done. And but yeah, once it empowers people, because in this day and age, most of us don't believe that we can heal.
Right.
Um, or we believe that we can heal, but we believe it's up to someone
They
else
also do it for us.
to heal us, right? So
Right.
we go to the doctor, and when we go to the doctor, we got to get a permission slip from the doctor to take to another doctor, who gives us a
Right.
pill or a shot or a
Right.
liquid or whatever we drink. And the power, we have put all our power in that pill, in that shot, in that
Yes.
concoction or
Yes.
whatever, right?
Yes.
And so, and it I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for modern medicine. So I'm not, trying to poop on, modern
No,
medicine and
understood.
doctors and all that stuff, right?
Understood.
So, but, like, too many of us use, we use that as a crutch for, like, a sniffle, or, like, oh, and you just go on this deep end of, like, oh, I've got this, I've got that, no, you don't, it's like, stop, you're creating the stuff that you have in your life, right?
Right. Right. Right.
So by clearing these emotions, like, people, it empowers people, and they're like, whoa, I am responsible. I can take control. There's a lot of empowering, like, I can do this, I am, good, which is another thing to touch on, like, I am, and I have, and I
Mm.
can, like,
Those are powerful words.
they are, right. And
Real
too
powerful
many of
words.
us just too many of us say, I am a bad person, right? I am an idiot, which is what I used to say,
Or I
right?
am not
Yeah,
this person.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or I have, right? Instead of saying I have a wonderful life, like, I have a crappy life, or I have, and I think a lot of the illnesses and stuff that we have is also, we also put those in our head. Like,
Yeah.
it starts with an ache or a pain of, like, oh my God, what is it? Maybe I have this. And then we go on this exhaustive search online. I've done it. All right. And it's like, oh my God, what do I have? Do I have this? Do I have that? And then, like, we end up manifesting the thing
That's
that
right.
we like, that
That's
we
right.
didn't have in the first place. It might have been just a little ache or pain, or just, like I said, like, the emotional, a storage to begin with, but then it blows up into, we've got this full blown blah blah blah.
Right. You talk about manifesting, I am very conscious about even the words that come out of my mouth, and
Oh,
so
you gotta be, man. You
when,
gotta be.
when people say to you, hey, how are you feeling today? I'm feeling great. I feel blessed. I'm happy. And how many times in situations where you ask them how they're doing? Yeah, I'm not going to bother tell you because you wouldn't want to listen anyways, or they'll say something like that. And it's like, no, even our words themselves have power, right? And again, so if we're feeling good about ourselves, or feel confident about ourselves, the things that we say about ourselves will be very, very different. And
exactly.
and because the words can manifest, like it's all connected, Bo. It's all connected in a cycle, right? How we think, how we feel, the words we say, they all they all can funnel in that same place, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. I mean, like we talked about earlier, right? Everything is energy and everything's connected.
Yeah.
So, if you're putting out bad energy, then, that's the life that you're going to create for yourself. Right. And I'm living proof. Like I bankrupted myself, like, and physically, emotionally, relationship wise, I pushed my family away. Like I was by myself, like just slowly dying as I poisoned myself with alcohol and drugs. And that was my own doing by the things that I thought, the things that I said, the things that I did, all my fault.
Right. I want to talk about the awareness part, because when we talk about self-sabotaging behaviors, a big aspect is being aware. And so when we talk about this journey of healing, right, it starts with that awareness piece. But oftentimes there's a trigger, there's a spark, there's something that sort of brings us to that place where we can be aware. Because oftentimes, and I know I'm speaking very generally here, but oftentimes people are aware what their demons are, what their villains are, the things that are holding them back, right? But they still need to do something to address it. And so the awareness sometimes is there, but other instances people have zero clue.
Yeah, even if people are aware, like for me, like I was aware that like drinking was not working for me,
Right.
but I wasn't getting away from it. And so, and then like, so many other people are totally unaware of what's going on. And I think, based on the stuff that I've learned and the space that I've cleared, I realized that, just the emotions that are driving the train, and that those are keeping us unaware. And, with self-awareness, like you can have self-awareness with meditation, or with crocheting, or like playing basketball. You can get in the moment, have a random thought, like, oh my God, wow, while you're playing basketball. It's just when all the cogs and wheels line up, and boom, you can have it in any activity where you're, where everything is just calm.
Right.
But the thing is, with the work I do, is it's kind of like search and destroy. So I got a hashtag that I use: meditation takes too long. And first of all, I love meditation. I meditate a couple times a week, right? But like you can sit, like I did, I could sit there in a chair for years, expecting something to happen, hoping for something to happen, and nothing happened, right? I'd be nice and calm for 20 minutes while I was sitting in the chair cross-legged. But then when I stood up, I was like, son of a, life sucks. All right,
Right.
But so what I do is the muscle testing. We go in, we search, and then we use the other tools, and we like let it go. And so it's much more, it's more productive. Would you rather sit in the chair and hope for things to happen, or would you rather sit down and find it and let it go? So it's two different ways to the same path, but the path I've found is a lot faster.
I love it. I think that's a fair question. A very good question, right? To ask yourself. How do you want to deal with this, right? How do you want to deal with this demon, right? Let it happen on its own, or you figure out the pathway to get there. And so I think it's really awesome. Bo, I love
Yeah.
this, man. This has been such a great chat, man, and I really appreciate everything you talked about.
Yeah,
When we
thank
think
you.
about what we do on this podcast, we spend a lot of time, right, talking about the things that we need to do to sort of live that, that audacious life. And certainly one of them is dealing with those self-sabotaging behaviors, because as long as they exist, that's going to hold us back absolutely from getting to where we're supposed to be. We may not necessarily know where that is in that moment, but we still need to clear our way so we can at least get there. And if we get once,
Exactly.
right, and that's really what I see you encouraging with your clients and your work, and I think it's fantastic. So congratulations, and I really love the fact that you're sort of so open with your own personal journey and how you use that to help inform the work you do, but also help the clients that you work with as well.
Well, you have to be, right? Because you got, like, people need to realize that, there was, it took some, it takes pain or pressure to create a diamond. And I'm not saying I'm a sparkly diamond, but, the growth that we need in life is not always, it's not always easy. But the thing is, like, the emotions, like when we find the emotions and we connect with them and we release them, that we don't, like, it's not a middle finger to the emotion as it's leaving. It's like, oh, you ruined my life, blah blah
Right.
blah. One big part of what we do when we're releasing these emotions is to acknowledge and appreciate what they taught you, right? Because that emotion, and or those that set of emotions that you've been holding on to, have, however they've done, have influenced the way that you live your life right now. They've influenced the experience that you've had in life. And so it's nice to be able, because if I had not been through what I went through, then I would not be here today helping other people get through their stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I believe that, like, the pain that I suffered was, I was someone that was able to handle that much pain that I put myself through. I was able to go through that much just suffering, that it took me to come up with the stuff that I now use to help others and hopefully keep them from going through that same amount of pain. So this, that's the way you got to look at it. You got to look at, my pain will help, benefit me in the future, and, you be a tool that I can use to help others or help myself, or,
Yes.
do whatever you want.
I so love the idea of looking at those situations, and identifying what purpose that they served. And
Yeah, man.
I
So
think
true.
I think for a lot of people, like, how many times have you been in a situation, it was tough in the moment, you struggled, you had emotions, you didn't think you'd get through it, but you eventually got through it. And then how many times you'll see other people, you're like, I got the answer because I know exactly what you dealt with, and here's how I did it. And now you're able
Yeah.
to give that to other people. And I'm hearing that from you loud and clear. And that's the part I think is the best part of our journey, right? That is, as
Yeah.
much as we think it's for ourselves, I think our personal struggles and our journeys also are for the benefit of others. And that's what I'm hearing loud and clear. So
Absolutely.
thanks for that, Bo. It's really awesome.
Thanks, Audley. I really
Great. Yeah,
appreciate it,
man.
man.
Very, very cool. For our listeners who've been listening and love what we're talking about and want to hear from more from you or connect with you, how do they do that? Where can we send them?
The best place is the website. I mean, I've got all the normal social stuff, but yeah, the best place is the website, amoniclear.com. So AMONICLEAR.com. So
Right. I hear
that's the
you.
best place.
I
Yeah,
love
come
you
check me out.
clear. I love you
Yeah,
clear, right? There we go.
yeah, exactly.
I love it. I love it. Bo, listen, again, thank you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate the insights. You're fabulous. And all the best, my friend.
Yeah, same to you. Same to you. Keep doing what you're doing, man. You're helping so many people out with your voice, and your energy. Like, I love your energy, man. That's just
Thank
awesome.
you.
I'm gonna I didn't sleep much last night, and but I'm gonna roll right out of this conversation and just, like, and have a wonderful day, because because of talking to you. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Means a lot. Again, I'm doing what I think I'm supposed to do. And if that means being my true audacious self, then that's what I'll do. So thanks, Bo.
There you go. Keep doing it.
Take care.
Thank you.
Back we are here on the podcast, and I want to send my thanks and appreciation for Bo for stopping by and sharing his insights on the self-sabotaging behaviors that can appear in our lives, and why it's so important for us to not let them hold us back from who we're supposed to be. It's so key. Again, none of us are immune to it. It happens to all of us, but we have to find a way to resist and push back. So thanks again, Bo, for joining us and being here. You know, when I reflect on my conversation with Bo, he really left us with a lot of great points. But if there's just one thing that I would take from my chat, it would be this. While it may be surprising to some, there's a lot of people who undermine their own potential and future direction with self-sabotaging behaviors that end up hindering their own personal success. These harmful behaviors can prove to be destructive and negatively impact nearly every part of their lives, including their relationships as well as their career. Now, there's a variety of different reasons why people thwart their own progress and become their own worst enemy in the end. They may consciously or unconsciously commit these acts of self-sabotage. The causes range from issues from their childhood that are unresolved to prior relationships and the impacts that that's had on them, or low self-esteem, or even coping problems. Regardless of what those reasons are, we continually have to recognize when these self-sabotaging behaviors appear, push back, and allow our audacious lives to flow. Hey, listen, if you haven't registered for email notifications of the podcast, please know that you can do so simply by heading over to bestaudaciouslife.com. All you've got to do is enter in your email address, and you'll be alerted every time there is brand new content that comes out. We've reached the end, unfortunately, of another episode of the Audacious Living Podcast. And as always, I got to send a shout out to our awesome listeners. Thank you so much for the tremendous and ongoing support. It's very, very much appreciated. It would also be appreciated if you enjoyed what you heard, head over to your favorite podcasting platform. Leave us a comment. Maybe if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment in the comment section. Leave a 5-star rating. All these things are appreciated because it helps the podcast continue to grow. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.